Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle one of the biggest financial puzzles in a divorce, figuring out the value of a shared home. For so many couples, this is the big, stressful question, right? A house isn't just an asset, it's a home, and untangling it financially can feel incredibly complicated. So we're going to demystify that whole process for you, step by step.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. We've got a 5-part process that'll take you all the way from figuring out the home's initial value to understanding your final options for how it's all divided up. All right, first things first. Before you can do any of the math, you and your ex-partner have to land on one single, crucial number, the home's fair market value. Seriously, everything else is built on this foundation. So how do you get that magic number? Well, you've basically got 2 main paths. If things are a little contentious, or if you need an official number for a buyout, you'll probably want a formal, professional appraisal. But if you're both on the same page and working together, an estimate from a realtor, a CMA, can often do the trick. Now, this is super important. When things get official, I'm talking about courts making a ruling or banks considering a refinance, they're almost always going to demand a formal appraisal. You can really think of it as the gold standard, the most legally sound valuation you can get. Okay, so once we have that market value, let's get to the real meat of the calculation. It's not just about what the house is worth on paper, it's about what slice of that pie you actually own together. So, before we jump into the numbers, what is equity, really? In the simplest terms, it's the cash you would walk away with if you sold the house today and paid off every single dollar you owe on it. It's your actual financial stake in the property. And honestly, the formula for this is super straightforward. You just take that fair market value we talked about, and then you subtract everything you owe on the place. That means the main mortgage, any second mortgages or home equity loans, and any other claims on the property, which are called liens. Let's put some real numbers to this to make it clear. Imagine your home gets appraised at $400,000, and let's say you still owe $300,000 on the mortgage. Simple subtraction, right? That leaves you with $100,000 in total equity. That's our starting pot. Okay. This next part is a really common trip-up, so listen closely. If one of you is keeping the house and buying the other out, you do not subtract potential future costs like realtor commissions. Why? Because you're not actually selling the house. The buyout is based on its value today, not on some imaginary sale down the road. All right, so we've got our total equity number, but hang on. Is that the number that just gets split down the middle? Well, not always. Now we need to look at whether any adjustments are needed to make the division truly fair. And this is where the personal story of your finances really comes in. Did one of you use an inheritance to redo the kitchen? Or maybe the down payment came from money one of you had before you even got married. These kinds of separate contributions can often be credited back to make sure the final split is genuinely equitable. So once you factor in all those credits and reimbursements, you end up with a new, more accurate number. We call this the adjusted equity, and this is the number that actually gets divided. Okay, we have our final adjusted equity number. Now for the million-dollar question, how do you actually split it? Well, believe it or not, the answer completely depends on where you live. Generally, states have one of 2 ways of looking at this. You've got community property states, where the starting point is usually a clean 50-50 split. But then, most states are equitable distribution states. Here, a court tries to find a fair division, which might be 50-50, but it could also be something else, like 60-40, depending on the circumstances. But no matter which type of state you're in, the final bit of math is the same. You just take that adjusted equity number, multiply it by whatever percentage split you've landed on, and boom, that's the dollar amount of your share. So, we've done all the math. Now what? Let's get to the final section and see how all these calculations actually turn into reality. What really happens to the physical house? When it all comes down to it, there are really 2 main paths forward. Option 1 is the most straightforward. You sell the house, pay off the mortgage and any other debts, and you each walk away with your share of the cash. Option 2 is a buyout. That's where one person keeps the house, refinances the mortgage in their name only, and pays the other person their share of this equity in cash. Now, this whole framework should give you a ton of clarity on the process. But, and this is maybe the most important thing we'll say today, you have to remember this advice. Laws are different everywhere. This explainer gives you the how, but you absolutely need a local professional to give you the legally sound what for your specific situation. Look, our goal here was to take something that feels really overwhelming and break it down into simple, logical steps so you feel more in control. So, we'll leave you with this question.
Now that you understand the whole process, what's the very best first step for you to take?